Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we all know what it's like to play a gacha game with a really weak main character, right? Have you ever been frustrated that when you're playing a gacha game, the free main character that they give you gets power crept the first multi you do? Don't even give you a week in, and that main character is never seen use on your team again. Have you wondered if there are any gacha games that are better than that? Well, if you have, you're in luck. Today, I've got my list of some of the strongest free gacha main characters in gacha games. This is specifically free gacha main characters. This means that alts of the main characters that you can pull do not count. So, are you ready? Let's get into the list. Credits for songs and clips that are not mine will be in the description. My number 5 pick is the Harmony Trailblazer from Honkai Star Rail. It might seem a bit controversial to have them down at number 5, but I think the higher picks are just really good. The Trailblazer currently has 3 forms: Destruction, Preservation, and Harmony. Destruction exists. Preservation only sees niche use as a tank, but Harmony is really good. The Harmony Trailblazer brings a brand new and very strong mechanic to the game, that being Super Break. Enemies have break bars that are reduced upon taking damage from the correct element. Upon breaking, the enemy takes a chunk of damage and receives debuffs. The issue with break effect units before was that because they were building break effect stats instead of attack and crit, if they were not actively breaking a unit, they were doing nothing. They were doing 0 damage.
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that?
What Super Break does is it allows break effect units to deal break effect damage to enemies that are broken instead of having to wait for the enemies to recover from the break so that the shield could be broken all over again. What this does is it changes break effect from a playstyle that relies on one-pump chumping enemies and one-shotting them from the break damage into a playstyle that actually can do consistent DPS.
This changes everything.
It completely transforms what might have been a previously fairly memey playstyle into what might just be the next era of Honkai Star Rail. The only thing holding them back from a higher spot is their lackluster performance in crit and dot teams, only really having a purposeful function in break teams specifically. However, where they do shine, and they do,
Michael Jackson!
they are literally irreplaceable, giving them an easy number 5. Number 4, Savior Adden from Epic 7. And was essentially a PvP game with some PvE attached like Epic 7, characters being good enough just doesn't cut it. Only the best of the best see use at the highest levels, and despite being a free unit, Savior Adden comfortably sits with the strongest, even boasting the highest play rate in the game at times.
What am I gonna do? What?
She comes with a 50% dodge rate buff, increasing up to 70% with gear. She has an AoE counterattack which strips buffs from all enemies and advances her in the turn order. If she does manage to get hit through all of that and doesn't die, it's all good. She has self-healing. She can inflict enemies with a debuff that makes them unable to receive buffs at all, and if this wasn't enough, she has a single target nuke that ignores 50% defense and deals bonus damage to dark enemies, allowing her to easily one-shot any dark opponent, a lot of non-dark opponents. And if that wasn't enough, the nuke gives the entire team except for her invincibility for 1 turn. Not that she needs it with 70% dodge rate. And in case you didn't catch that, that's not invincibility for 1 hit, it's for 1 turn. To top it all off, she's light element, so not only does she already have advantage against dark, she doesn't have offensive disadvantage against anything.
Think fast, Chuckle Nuts! Bonk!
And while she's not a PvE god by any means, she definitely has a place against dark bosses. She is the full package of what any PvP player could hope to get from a free unit, placing her solidly in the 4th spot. My number 3 pick is Nox from Path to Nowhere. Nox can be acquired by completing missions over 14 days to farm points to unlock her when you start a new account. If you don't unlock her in the 14 days, it's not a big deal, right? She's just a free unit in a gacha game, right? Wrong. Make a new account now. You messed up. If you don't, you're missing out on one incredible unit. Nox begins getting value the moment that the match starts. When any enemy anywhere on the field dies, she gets permanent stacking attack. Not only that, but while she's on the field, she passively reduces the defense of all enemies by 27% everywhere, at all times, just by existing. If that wasn't enough, during her ultimate, the real highlight of her kit, she begins slashing in a 3x3 range, dealing massive damage, similar to Silver Ash from Arknights. Now, not only is this damage crazy high, but during this, her global defense shred is increased to 40%. Her ultimate can last up to 28 seconds, and if you want to, you can use a chief's skills to battery her, giving her 100% uptime. Unlike Arknights, where Silver Ash requires a cooldown and deployment costs to move, you can move characters on the field freely in Path to Nowhere, so no enemy is safe. The icing on the cake is her ability to do core damage, which is a stagger mechanic for bosses. Not every Sinner can do core damage, but she just has to cover every offensive base because why the hell not? Her immense damage output, global defense shred, and core breaking makes her a no-brainer pick for all but the most specialized teams, making her an easy number 3. My number 2 pick is Aldo from Another Eden. In a game with no gacha pity, having reliable free characters to pick up the slack is necessary, and pick up the slack he does. Aldo is what happens when a utility unit realizes the best utility one can provide to the team is dead enemies. Aldo comes out of the gate with the ability to remove all buffs from enemies and reduce their damage, speed, defense, and elemental resistance. He can restore the party's mana and reduce mana costs, buff damage, crit rate, crit damage, elemental attack, defense, and speed. He can also make the party start with a higher AF gauge, which is like a bullet time which lets you do massive damage to a time frozen boss. He also quickly fills the Stellar Burst gauge, which lets characters with Stellar Awakening attack without using up turns. He's rocking every offensive utility you could want, but he's not finished. On top of all those insane buffs and debuffs, he's rocking arguably the best non-elemental DPS you can get thanks to having very high skill mods, even compared to gacha units. And on top of all that, his hardest hitting attack, Starworm Slash, can deal elemental advantage damage to any enemy, making him able to be brought into any fight. He really does a little bit of everything except heal or shield allies. Even as strong as he already is, he regularly gets buffs when new story content releases, so he's just gonna keep getting better and better as time goes on. Easy number 2 pick on this list. He goes everywhere, he has a little bit of everything, great unit. Before I reveal my number 1 pick for the best free MC in Gacha, let's quickly go through some honorable mentions. My honorable mention number 1 is Mash from Fate Grand Order. Mash is an incredible defensive support. She provides taunt, invincibility, ult gauge boost, increases her own ult gauge gain when hit, and provides damage cut, which reduces flat amounts of damage from enemies, a defense increases, and even a decent attack buff on top of it. She has 2 forms. The second one is not spectacular, unfortunately. The thing with MASH, and the reason why she didn't make the cut, is because there are better alternatives once you have a fully rounded out account. Let's be honest, once you have Castoria and Merlin, you know, Reyna's, you're probably not going to use MASH unless the story forces you to, let's be real. My second honorable mention is the Dendro Traveler from Genshin Impact. The Dendro Traveler definitely had some serious time in the spotlight when Sumeru released and brought the Dendro element and Bloom teams. As Dendro Traveler at the beginning of Sumeru was the best off-field Dendro applicator we had. He was kind of the only consistent off-field Dendro applicator. Unfortunately, since then, new teams have come out, the new off-field Dendro applicators have come out that have absolutely crushed him meta-wise. Nahida, my god. As well as other factors have pretty much turned the Dendro MC into a if I have nothing better kind of pick. Unfortunate. My third honorable mention is Lathel from Brown Dust 2. Lathel's claim to fame comes from his Promise of Vengeance ult, which is the hardest hitting single target character in the game. Not only is Promise of Vengeance Lathel free, but you can also get some of his dupes for free, making him even stronger compared to the rest of your account if you're not a whale. His main place is Last Night, a game mode important for farming a resource necessary to make SSR gear. However, his use is a bit limited outside of that, and unfortunately, Lathel's strongest ult, Homunculus Lathel, which is the strongest physical buffer in the game, is locked behind Gacha. Unfortunately, that does cause him to not make the list. Also, if you are watching this, like within the month that this video came out, Brown Dust 2 is doing a Mushoku Tensei collab. If you want to get Roxy and some other chick I can't remember, oh my god, don't worry about it. Roxy and someone else, if you want to get them in the game, go jump on Brown Dust 2 right now. Do it. My number 1 pick is Gran and Jita from Granblue Fantasy. Gran and Jita quite literally have it all. They are like that kid on the playground who says that their superpower is that they have all the superpowers. I cannot go into full detail about what they can do, or else this segment would be the size of the rest of the video. Gran and Jita have a job system that lets them freely swap between any of their 70 plus jobs. 70 plus! And it's not like 90% of the jobs are ass and only a handful are good. About 30 of the jobs see use and are great. So, are the jobs that don't see meta use useless? No! When you unlock and level a job, you get stat boosts that apply to all jobs. Plus, while every job has one unique skill and unique passives, every other skill that the job has can be used with any job. They quite literally have a job for everything. They are top tier buffer, debuffer, healer, shielder, tank, DPS, enabler, specialist, etc. The only utility at all that I can think of that they don't have is the ability to reduce the entire team's cooldowns at once. Hell, they even have debuffs that make the enemies take more loot. Even now, Gran and Jita continue to get new jobs and new ultimate masteries, which grant even more stat bonuses and even more skills to other jobs. Gran and Jita very comfortably take my spot as the strongest Gacha MC ever, if not the strongest Gacha character in any Gacha game ever. Hey, if you watched until the end of the video, thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to me. Please leave a like and subscribe. This video took a lot longer than I thought it would. I'm running out on the time for the free trial for this video editing software. I'm gonna get some sleep, and tomorrow I'm gonna fucking play Wuthering Waves, baby.